Donald Trump doesn't want you to believe that The Atlantic's reporting that he called our former war heroes from World War I who had died in service losers and suckers. So here he is responding to the reporting yesterday.
False. General Keith Kellogg, who was a highly respected man, couldn't believe when he heard it. And he knows everything about all of it. And to think that I would make statements negative to our military and our fallen heroes when nobody's done what I've done with the budgets, with the military budgets, with getting pay raises for our military. It is a disgraceful situation.
Okay, so he says it didn't happen because he did something with a budget or whatever, and some general knows everything about all of it. So yeah, so why are we still talking about this? I'm convinced it clearly didn't happen, Brett.
Well, yeah, he raises military budgets fine. That money goes to contractors. They floated the idea of cutting health benefits to troops. So no. Also, you're on record disparaging people who have made ultimate sacrifices while you yourself have sacrificed nothing and pretend to be Saint Sebastian with arrows in your body, being completely pummeled with unfair words. Like, while sticks and stones may break his bones, words are worse.
Yeah, obviously.
That's him. He feels like he's a wounded soldier. He acts like it all the time. He's such a weak little bitch boy.
Okay, let's be careful.
And that's it. But yeah.
It is. Okay, so look, he denied it, but not just him. Kayleigh McEnany tweeted, I see President real Donald Trump consistently express his heartfelt gratitude and absolute admiration for our brave men and women in uniform. Just yesterday, he was truly humbled to be in the presence of our courageous World War II veterans. This Atlantic story is garbage. Nobody believes. I don't think Trump fans believe that he was humbled in the presence of those veterans. He doesn't have the capacity to be humbled except by his own perception of himself, maybe briefly. Anyway, so look, he says it didn't happen. She said it didn't happen. They've also said that Scavino and Stephen Miller, who were on that trip in 2018, said it didn't happen. I don't know who either of those is supposed to convince. So the Atlantic, if Stephen Miller says it didn't happen.
Kayleigh McEnany, who is on record calling Trump a hateful racist.
Yeah.
She has said that. Kayleigh McEnany has already changed her name to Toby, essentially, and become frickin' Donald Trump's like willing servant, Sauron's willing servant, like doing everything, giving up any shred of dignity she might have for a title. She, before he was, and I wonder if he even knows this, called him a hateful racist.
100%, yeah.
And she's, if you ask her right now, she'll say she didn't say it. So
she didn't say it, or
she's counter, if she's saying, if she's lying about what she said herself, which she's on record saying, of course she's gonna lie. And Steve Miller and Scavino, come on.
Exactly, yeah. So look, they both deny that it happened. Okay, so now we have to weigh the evidence. First, I mean, the fact that it's entirely consistent with everything that we've experienced would seem to indicate that it's true, but you can't go through your life assuming that. So we're gonna go through the actual evidence. So the Atlantic had 4 different sources on that story. Now, they were anonymous, that's true, which if you don't like the story / are conservative means that it didn't happen, they're just being made up. That's not actually how it works. And by the way, just to clarify, they're not anonymous to the reporter. The reporter knows who they are. They're just being anonymous. Now, in this case, should they be? We'll return to that later on. But they say that they would be attacked if they were to openly come out and talk about this, which is not necessarily a good reason to not come forth, but also definitely true. So here's the thing, they immediately started attacking the story. So in addition to the 4 sources that the Atlantic has, James Laporta, who's an AP investigative reporter and a former Marine himself, tweeted, a senior Defense Department official I just spoke with confirmed this story by Jeffrey Goldberg in its entirety, especially the graphs about the late Senator John McCain and former Marine General John Kelly, President Trump's former chief of staff. Later on, he added on a second source, specifically a senior US Marine Corps whistleblower officer with knowledge of President real Donald Trump's comments confirmed the Atlantic story. So that is additional multiple sources from a different outlet. But it wasn't just the AP and the Atlantic, because eventually the Washington Post got involved as well and said a former senior administration official who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to speak candidly, confirmed to the Washington Post that the president frequently made disparaging comments about veterans and soldiers missing in action, referring to them at times as losers. So that's a third outlet. But the interesting thing about the Washington Post adding on additional sources is that they also added on additional information. In one account, the president told senior advisors that he didn't understand why the US government placed such value on finding soldiers missing in action because they had performed poorly and gotten caught and deserved what they got, according to a person familiar with the discussion. Trump believed, that's insane. But we've got another one. Trump believed people who served in the Vietnam War must be losers because they hadn't gotten out of it, according to a person familiar with the comments. And clearly Trump will feel that way because he did get out of it, pretending he had bone spurs. So clearly anyone who didn't make up bone spurs and use their wealth to get out of serving their country must be a loser. But man, why do we search for soldiers missing in action because they suck at their job? That should end it. It won't. It won't have any effect whatsoever. But just the fact that they denied the Atlantic story now is causing all of this additional information to come out, which makes it look even worse. I would argue that's worse than the World War I thing.
It's all the same. And this goes back to him attacking the father of a soldier who died while he was running for president the first time. Like, we've seen it, and his definition of a loser, is, I would like to ask him a question, have him define what he means by that. There's a lot. So the loser aspect, they're losers because what? Like, what did it take for you to get out of the war? It took your dad owning a building that had a doctor in it. So why didn't everybody just do that? That's how he thinks. And the thing is, it boggles my mind because so many of his own supporters fall into that category of what he would define as losers. Why do they like him? I don't understand, especially when stuff like this comes out. They are relying on Fox News to say this is false, when in reality, the things that we have him on tape saying, and for so long, and his tweet about John McCain is the same sentiment. And that was something that we can find right now and bring out for you. I don't understand.
I'm gonna.
And is he, great, and is he actively trying to keep soldiers from becoming these losers? No, he doesn't want to. He had the opportunity to end our involvement in Yemen, and he didn't. He vetoed bipartisan legislation to do that. So he's not that guy they think he is. The only thing, it is mind control. It is him just because he doesn't blink, and it's because he's pathological. He doesn't care. He's a sociopath. And he does not actually care about other people, not even a little bit, to the point where you can read it on his face that he's lying.
Yeah, exactly. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.